Good evening, everyone. It's 5:35 p.m. here in California time. Welcome to another episode of NorCal SCI's Virtual is the New Reality series. Very excited about tonight's presentation with Shelley Wood. She'll be talking all about vegetables and carbohydrates. So as usual, a couple of housekeeping items that I just want to go over with you. As you may notice, you've all been muted, and that way we don't have to have any background distractions, noise distractions. If you need to ask Shelley any questions, there will be a Q&A session at the end. We're devoting about 10 minutes or so for that. So just feed me your questions through the chat feature on your screen, and I'll pose those questions to Shelley at the end. These presentations are brought to you thanks to a generous grant that we got from the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, so we're grateful to them. And then finally, we are recording this session as we do with all of our sessions. And that way, if you need to jump off this presentation for any reason, you won't miss a thing. We will have the recording available to everyone by Friday morning. So if you registered for it, you'll see the recording in your inbox on Friday morning. So that's everything I wanted to share with you. And why don't we get started by introducing Shelley. She's a lifelong advocate for nutrition. When she isn't working with her patients, she can be found in her greenhouse or kitchen. Shelley obtained her BS degree in nutritional science from San Jose State University in 2012, followed by her master's in public health in 2016 from the University of New England. And she has been working at Santa Clara Valley Medical Center, one of the top spinal cord injury rehab hospitals in the country since 2013, where she currently works in the outpatient clinic of the hospital, seeing primarily those with spinal cord injury. She also spends a good amount of time working with complex GI issues in the outpatient gastroenterology clinic. And I am thrilled about this last bit. She's also a wonderful member of NorCal SCI's advisory board. So we're happy to have Shelley once again step in. She's got a beautiful and incredibly informative presentation ready to roll out for you. So enjoy it, Shelley. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. It's so good to be back. And I will tell you, I recognize so many of you, and I'm so happy to see you. So let me get this set up. It's so nice to see familiar faces on here. I was going through everybody here, and I recognize many of you from your rehab stay and from other presentations, and it's just it's nice to be a part of this and to be doing this work for your community, and I'm honored. So with that being said, we're going to continue our talk about carbohydrates and veggies, specifically vegetables. So the last presentation that I did a lot of talking about whole grains and kind of went the grains route, but this time we're going to take a look at veggies, which are my all-time favorite food. I love them, and you'll see why. This is a very colorful presentation I'm sure you're going to enjoy. So let's get going. So the layout is going to be basically how many carbohydrates do we need? How much? How much is too much? How much is too little? We're going to chat about fiber, soluble versus insoluble, and this is where I'm going to brush upon the neurogenic bowel and fiber's role with that. We're going to go into some pretty heavy words that I don't say every day, so brace yourself and get ready for a laugh. But phytochemicals and phytonutrients, we're going to talk about color and why eating from the rainbow is so important. Chat about GMOs for a little bit because they fall perfectly in line with what we're talking about tonight, as well as organics. And then I'm going to go over the same information that I always talk about when it comes to weight management, and that is caloric density. But before we get started, again, much of the nutrition information is pretty technical, and the reason why I break these things down is so you have a better understanding about them, and then you can make better nutritional decisions for yourself. Knowing more about food is going to help you get more invested in eating healthfully. The more you know, I feel like the more knowledge you have, the more power you have in making these decisions for your health. Much of the information is applicable to everybody, all bodies, not just those with spinal cord injury, but I'm very cognizant of that, and I will point out any differences or anything that has specific benefit for spinal cord injury. So the big question of the night is how many carbs do you need? Carbs have a bad reputation these days, and it's heartbreaking for me. You need carbohydrates, and I mentioned this for the last presentation in whole grains. You need carbohydrates just to function. General rule of thumb is that you should be eating about 45 to 65% of your total daily calories as carbohydrates, and carbohydrates are whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. You get carbohydrates from all of those things. They recommend 5 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. I concur, and at least 3 servings of whole grains per day. This is going to be a higher number if you're following a plant-based diet, specifically going to be higher in carbohydrates, because many plant-based foods are higher carbohydrate foods, but that is okay because you're also going to be eating lower in fat. Whole grains, fruits, and vegetables, primarily, I would say 98% of the time, are low fat. So don't worry about that. Counting carbs, not necessary. If you're consuming the majority of your carbs from whole grains, fruits, and vegetables, these things have higher fiber, water, and nutrient content. So they're going to be a lot more filling. It's going to be a lot harder to overeat these types of foods. So how much is too much? So when we think of excessive carb consumption, we think of weight gain. The media and people have done a really good job of scaring people away from carbohydrates and making them feel like I need to have a low carbohydrate diet, avoid carbs at all costs, but that is not true. You will gain weight if you're consuming extra calories from processed snacks, baked goods, foods with fiber and nutrients stripped out of them completely. I talked about rice, the difference between white and brown rice, and whole wheat bread versus white bread in my last presentation. Basically, if you take all the nutrients out of these carbohydrate foods, you're going to end up with something with little nutritional value, and you can eat more of those things because they're so tasty, and you end up overeating, and then you're going to gain weight. Weight gain is not typically associated with a diet that's built around whole grains and the high fiber that's associated with them, because literally you just get too full. It's very hard to overeat a salad. You get to the point where you can't have any room for any more. However, if you have your Twinkies or your cupcakes or whatever, your donuts, it's really easy to go way over in calories with those because they don't have any fiber in them, and it's just really easy to eat a lot of that. If you have diabetes, you have to be very attentive to your carbohydrate intake. It's very important that you spread your carbohydrates evenly throughout the day for really good glycemic control. I would see a dietitian if you have diabetes. If you're comfortable and you have diabetes and you're comfortable with this, feel free to send Franklin a brief email. Let him know, you might be interested in having me do a presentation covering diabetes, because I do a ton of diabetes education in my day-to-day life, and I would be more than happy to do a whole presentation on diabetes and how to manage that. So just let Franklin know, and I'll make it one of my topics. Risk for too little carbohydrate intake. Carbs, as we know, glucose, that's our main source of energy. That's where our brain gets its fuel, our bodies, our muscles. Like, we need carbohydrates for energy. It's a primary source for brain function. Muscles, other parts of our body. I shared the more physiological information in my last presentation on whole grains. Basically what the body does with carbohydrates for energy and metabolism. So go back for a review of that. But the main symptom when you don't have enough carbohydrates is called hypoglycemia. Normal blood sugar range should be between 70 and 99. And this can drop down pretty low. If you're diabetic, it can go dangerously low, even comatose low. If you're not diabetic, you can still have a drop in energy, and you'll notice all the symptoms are there. This is hypoglycemia. So hunger, shakiness, constipation is a big one when you don't eat enough carbohydrates. Dizziness, constipation can actually be quite problemsome, especially with spinal cord injury. So be aware of that. And all of those other things can go wrong if you don't have enough of the fuel that your body needs. So that's pretty much what you need for carbohydrates, how much is too much, basically processed, easy to overdo, not processed, plant-based, a lot harder to overdo, and then what too little of carbohydrates looks like. Now we look at fiber. Fiber is known as roughage. It's the part of plant-based foods. These are the grains, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, beans. This is the part of those plants that the body doesn't break down. Basically passes through the body undigested, keeps your digestive system nice and clean and healthy. It gives you easier bowel movements, flushes cholesterol, helps get rid of cholesterol, and harmful carcinogens out of the body. There's two kinds of fiber that I'm going to talk about, soluble and insoluble. For soluble fiber, this is the kind of fiber that attracts water to it and it turns into gel during digestion. This gel, if you think about, picture like the blob, it moves slowly, it slows down transit time, makes it really beneficial for lower neurogenic bowel, because generally those with lower neurogenic bowel end up having incontinence, accidents, diarrhea, just more watery stool. So you want more soluble fiber for this gel action. Soluble fiber also helps blood sugar rise more evenly or just more gradually, less dramatically. It helps prevent sharp blood sugar spikes. It's really good for diabetes. This kind of fiber, soluble fiber, helps bind to cholesterol, like I mentioned, and bile acids, which have cholesterol in your GI tract, and it helps lower your blood cholesterol levels. So if you have high cholesterol, fiber is definitely your friend, especially soluble fiber. It is a highly fermentable fiber, so it's easily digested by your bacteria in your large intestine. And different supplements, I'm a big fan of food over supplementation, and the next time we have a presentation, I'm going to talk more about supplements, but there are soluble fiber supplements. Calcium polycarbophyl and wheat dextrin are two soluble fiber supplements that you can try, but it's better, I think, if you were to Google soluble fiber sources. I have a few on here. Oatmeal is amazing. That's why you see on every Quaker Oats container, they've gone crazy with promoting, cholesterol lowering. They've done a ton of research on it, and so they definitely are using that in their advertisements because, yeah, oatmeal, it has soluble fiber, and that has been linked to lowering cholesterol. Nuts, seeds, beans, apples, berries, those are all great sources of soluble fiber. Many whole grains and fruits and veggies have both. In fact, almost all of the plant-based foods have both soluble and insoluble, but certain foods have more than the other. So like oatmeal has both soluble and insoluble, but more so on the soluble side, if that makes sense. Insoluble fiber. So this is the kind that doesn't dissolve in water. It's called non-viscous. Insoluble fiber adds bulk to stool and it helps it pass through more quickly through the stomach and intestines. Think of it as being heavier and just kind of dropping down faster. It speeds up transit time. Insoluble fiber is kind of what you think of when you think of Metamucil, like for constipation. So insoluble fiber creates softer, bulkier stool that's easier to eliminate. Some of the insoluble fibers are fermentable by bacteria in the large intestine, but not as much as soluble. And the different supplements, I mentioned Metamucil. Metamucil is psyllium husk. Psyllium husk has insoluble and soluble, but it mostly has insoluble fiber, which is really good for constipation. And methyl cellulose. Again, if you're looking for fiber for constipation, look to food sources first and try to make sure that you exhaust those options before supplementation, because food is generally better tolerated and your body responds better to it than supplements. So brown rice, rye, wheat berries, pears, spelt, fruits and veggies. Again, with the ratio, everything pretty much has soluble and insoluble, but some have more so than the other. So just Google, and there's some really good resources out there. And then I mentioned neurogenic bowel earlier. So current recommendations for fiber are 15 to 30 grams a day. I like 30, I like the higher number. If you are not a fiber eater, if you're just kind of getting into the world of plant-based foods, then don't go crazy overnight with adding fiber because it can get miserable in many ways. So start slow, gradually increase. And I would say 30 is a good goal for most people with neurogenic bowel. Again, both soluble and insoluble sources of fiber for upper neurogenic, more on the soluble side for lower neurogenic bowel. Okay, so for carbohydrates, again, I'm repeating myself, but it's really the source that matters. High quality carbs have essential vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that our bodies need. High quality carbs have fiber, which slows the digestion of sugar and starches, prevents large spikes in blood sugar and insulin, which is associated with diabetes, heart disease, and weight gain. And high quality is whole grains. So the previous presentation, whole grain foods. Arash did a really great job last week with his presentation on whole grains. And we're going to keep talking about the benefits of those. Vegetables are high quality, and fruits, which I'll talk about next time. But high quality carbs are those three things. So here we go. These are the big words. So phytochemicals and phytonutrients. I know you've heard of these before. I'm sure most of you have. Literally means phyto, which means plant, and chemicals. So plant chemicals, basically. These are compounds in plants, fruits, veggies, whole grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, anything that grows in a tree or out of the ground naturally has phytochemicals. And the compounds contribute to color, taste, and smell. But notice I put color. Okay, this is where all of these phytochemicals and nutrients come into play. Different ones produce different colors. That's why I am going to break everything down by color in a second. So phytonutrients are found in all edible parts of plants, especially the skin or peel. Excuse me. So if you've heard of eating the skin on potatoes, eating the skin on your apples, eating the skin wherever it's feasible, that's where most of the phytochemicals live and the nutrients. It's estimated that there's 5,000 chemicals in plants that we eat, and we're learning more and more about them all the time. Almost always, benefits are found to be greatest when consuming these things in food form, not pill form. And here's the words. So let's talk about the rainbow, okay? These are just a couple of the chemical compounds that are so abundant in plant-based foods that we eat. So carotenoids, these have been shown to inhibit cancer growth and cardiovascular disease and boost immunity. And you don't have to memorize these. I'm not going to test anyone, but I'm just going to make a point here that all of these things are so amazing. Flavonoids might fight inflammation and tumor growth. Anthocyanins are associated with lower blood pressure. Resveratrol, this is associated with longevity in some animals. And don't get this misunderstood, okay? If you know what resveratrol is, this is a compound that's found in red wine. They studied this and they found that people that drink red wine live longer. But, you know, they live longer, but if you're drinking these things in small quantities, that might be true. But once you start to drink too much red wine, it becomes the opposite, and life expectancy is reduced. So a lot of people went out and thought, oh, I'm going to just drink cases of red wine and I'm going to live till I'm 100. That's not true. Once you get to a certain point with your resveratrol, it reverses and goes the other direction. So don't take that the wrong way. Proanthocyanidins and flavonols, these are linked to better function of the lining in arteries and reduced blood pressure. Sulfides and thiols might help decrease LDL cholesterol. Isothiocyanates might help protect against cancer and cardiovascular disease. Quercetin might help decrease inflammation and blood pressure. Terpenes might help slow cancer cell growth and fight viruses. and then lutein, and the last one, which I can't even, are linked to eye health. So all of these things have beneficial, and I say might because there's tons of studies out there and we don't have any definitive answers, and there's way too many other variables in these studies, like what else the people are eating too. So it's kind of hard to pinpoint. You can't just feed someone carotenoids for 10 years and see how they do. It doesn't work that way in research. So the point is get them all somehow. So let's start with blue and purple. So these are the anthocyanins, and those are linked with lower blood pressure. Also have calcium in this powerhouse food that I'm going to talk about. Kale has calcium, which is great for bone strength, and potassium, which is blood pressure control. The powerhouse food in this category is kale. The dark green leaves, they have dark green leaves, but the green pigments overpower the purple ones. So it says blue and purple, but they're really more blue and purple underneath that green pigment, which is too powerful. So that's why they're green. 1 whole cup is all your daily needs for vitamin A, C, and K, and then also the calcium and potassium. Other veggies, obviously, I hope nobody here is colorblind. My husband's colorblind, so this would be horrible for him, but eggplants are purple, right? Most of them. Cauliflower, you can get purple. Turnips, potatoes, cabbage, asparagus, carrots, all of these are in this family with the anthocyanins. Then we have green. Green is one of my favorite colors. This is sulforaphane, isocyanate, indoles. Swiss chard is the powerhouse food in this category. 1 cup cooked will give you all your daily needs for vitamins A and K, half your vitamin C needs, and magnesium, iron, potassium, calcium, and fiber. Swiss chard is great. It has multiple phytochemicals, and the ribs are usually a different color completely. So again, with another color, different phytonutrients, completely different chemical makeup. And so now you're looking at multiple phytonutrients in Swiss chard. Other veggies in the category are, green ones: broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, kale, all of them basically. So when you're out and about looking for green, just try it all because all of them are beneficial. Then we go to orange and yellow. The antioxidants are alpha and beta carotene. The major phytochemicals that are generally present in sweet potato are flavonoids. There's a ton of them. There's actually 8 or 9 of them that we know of. These may vary with different varieties depending on the color of the flesh and skin. Alpha carotene is stronger than beta. The pigments can be yellow, orange, red, and dark green in fruits and veggies. They act as antioxidants and fight against damage caused by oxidation, which plays a role in the development of cardiovascular disease and cancer. Beta carotene is what we call provitamin A. It means that the body can convert it to vitamin A. So these colors are beneficial for all kinds of things. I think that this is right up there with green, so orange and yellow. A medium sweet potato is going to give you 100% of your vitamin A needs in a day. Vitamin C, all the B vitamins, calcium, iron, potassium. There is a myth that bananas have a ton of potassium, but actually they're like halfway down the list of high potassium foods. If you're looking for potassium because maybe you're on a medication that causes low potassium, you want to probably go with potatoes and sweet potatoes before you want to go with bananas. Other veggies in the group, obviously carrots, good for the eyes, that's what they say. Yellow and orange bell peppers, squash, pumpkins, all of those. And red, we have our red veggies. Lycopene is the big one. This pigment's found in abundance in red, orange, and yellow fruits and veggies. We don't know whether the health benefits of tomatoes come from the lycopene or because they have so many other nutrients in them, vitamins, minerals. But lycopene has been linked to health benefits ranging from heart health to protection against sunburn, certain types of cancer. Tomatoes are pretty amazing. 1 cup of cooked tomatoes has nearly 100% of vitamin C and vitamin A. It has potassium, it has iron. And then other veggies you could find in the lycopene group are beets, red peppers, radishes, radicchio, red onion, red lettuce, and cabbage. So red is easy to find pretty much when you go to the produce section. And then we have white and light green. These are flavonoids. There's quercetin, there's one I can't pronounce, anthocyanthins, have a wide range of helpful properties, including fighting inflammation and cancer growth. A cup of parsnips. Think of parsnips like a fancy carrot. You could do pretty much the same thing with parsnips. A cup of parsnips has a quarter of your daily fiber needs for most people: vitamin C, K, potassium, magnesium, vitamin E, vitamin B, calcium, and other minerals. And you can find these nutrients and these phytochemicals in other white and light green vegetables like garlic, onions, leeks, celery, asparagus, and the list goes on. So the point is, it's a bunch of wordy mumbo jumbo. I just blew your mind with these words. But the point is, eating all of these colors will produce the most optimal health, ensuring that you get all the nutrients that your body wants. When you colors, include as much variety as you can, totally up your nutrition game. So consider eating different colors. Take note of the ones that you always have in your cart, the things that you always eat, and just take note of the colors and try to switch it up and change your colors around and get as much variety as you possibly can. Okay, let's chat about GMOs real quick. GMOs are misunderstood. A lot of people don't understand what they are, but basically they're genetically modified organisms. These are genes. Genes are made up of DNA, which is a set of instructions for how your cells grow and develop. So GMOs are genes that are modified, basically. Organisms refers to all living things, including bacteria and fungi. So GMOs are living things that have had their genetic code altered somehow. And this has been going on for centuries. Penicillin is probably the most well-known GMO. Insulin is a GMO, vaccines are GMOs, all of those are used in medicine. Most GMOs are used in agriculture and worldwide food production, used for insect repellent for certain crops, which reduces the need for pesticides. So it's built into the DNA of these crops. Built into the DNA to provide frost tolerance in very cold areas. Improvement in crop yield worldwide, which positively impacts the hunger in third world countries and areas in the world where the climate has changed and food can't grow anymore. So they've altered the DNA of certain crops in parts of the world to make them more weather resistant, so things grow better and that they can feed the people there. Are they safe though? See, that is the question. Are GMOs safe? There hasn't been any adverse health effects found in decades that they've been in our food production. There's nothing definitive that's been identified. 90% of scientists believe that GMOs are safe. And in that group of scientists, the American Medical Association, as well as the World Health Organization, believes that they are safe. And I'm sure they're testing all the time the safety and efficacy of GMOs. So what I would suggest to you is, if you've heard bad things about GMOs, I would take the time to learn about how they work, and I would look at the benefits that they provide. I wouldn't oppose all GMOs because literally it's impossible. They've been with us for 100 years or more, you know. And they have benefited us. So we need to learn as much as we can about them. There's a lot of misleading information out there, so do your research and learn a little bit more about GMOs. Here's the other one, organic. So what does it mean? What is organic? Organic is the way farmers grow and process agricultural products like fruits and veggies, grains, dairy, and meat. Why organic? Organic enhances the soil and water quality, reduces pollution, provides safe and healthy habitats for livestock, enables natural livestock behavior, promotes a self-sustained cycle of resources on a farm. What isn't organic. So synthetic fertilizers that are not natural, man-made, sewage used as fertilizer. Yes, that is a practice. That's not organic. Synthetic pesticides used to control pests, irradiation to preserve food or eliminate disease or pests. GMOs are not organic. So GMOs, if you are worried about GMOs, buy organic. And antibiotics or growth hormones used for livestock. Why is it so expensive? So the problem is with organics is the certification process is extremely expensive and it's extremely time consuming. It involves strict regulations on how food is grown, handled, and processed. Not all farms can afford this. I have come across so many farmers at the farmers market where I've asked, is your food organic? And they've said yes, they cannot afford to use organic practices. So it is helpful to, if you can go to a farmer's market and talk to the people that are growing the food, it's helpful to learn about their processes and support them. Organic versus natural. Natural means no artificial colors, preservatives, or flavors. Natural doesn't mean organic, though. So you have to see this sign, the seal here on the screen, if you're looking for organic. If you can afford organic, go for it. Don't buy foods in their own package organic. So don't buy organic bananas or organic avocados or pineapples or melons. That's a waste of your money. But if you can afford to buy other things organic, it's becoming more and more widespread. So I think it's getting a lot easier to access organic foods. But if you're having a hard time with budget, then just wash your food, wash it thoroughly. There are some studies that say organic food is maybe safer and more nutritious out there. There's limited information to draw conclusions, but some studies say that organic processes increase some nutrients, like flavonoids. Some studies suggest that omega-3 fatty acid levels are higher in organic livestock farming. Studies have shown that less toxic metals like cadmium are in grains of organic grains. And then they've looked at less pesticide residue in organic products and less bacteria resistance to antibiotics. So do what you can. If you want organic food, you can get it. Just be careful and kind of purchase things wisely. Wash your fruits and vegetables well. Don't buy organic for things that you're going to peel or take the outside layer off. That would be my recommendation. Okay, and then this is just a review for those of you concerned about weight. Where do veggies fall here? So we did whole grains last time. Look, this is the stomach. This is 500 calories in the stomach. Again, oil and cheese kind of don't give you a full stomach, but you can eat a ton of fruits and vegetables and feel nice and full, and that's 500 calories. I honestly don't. I'd like to see somebody try to eat 500 calories worth of salad without the dressing, right? It's without the dressing, and see how that feels. Don't do it. Again, with caloric density, so another gentle reminder about where veggies fall in the grand scheme of caloric intake and weight management. If you like to eat, veggies are your friend. So veggies are all the way over on the left. You have you can eat way more vegetables because there's less calories in their weight than other foods, and fat and oil is far to the right. So veggies are amazing. And here's another one. This one you can't really read on your screen, but there is a website on there, and it's kind of a really cool handout. I refer to this for my patients sometimes because it's a nice breakdown of caloric density and kind of, if you're looking for weight loss and weight management, sticking to the left side of this and eating the foods on the left, limiting the foods on the right, and it's oftentimes very successful doing it that way. And it requires a lot less thinking. So remember, there's room for other foods, but make the majority of your foods plant-based for health and easy weight loss and maintenance. I like to say go for 90% plant-based if you can. Eat abundantly from your vegetables and vary their color. Nutrition should be fun. Make it fun. It's not about what you eat during one meal. And as we go into a safe Thanksgiving, enjoy your Thanksgiving meal. It's one meal. And if you're trying to be eating healthfully, you can do it that way, or you can enjoy grandma's sweet potato casserole with roasted marshmallows on the top, and it's totally fine. It's one meal. It should be fun. Just make your overall diet quality over time as healthful and colorful as you can, and that'll have the biggest impact on your health. So next time we're going to talk about fruits and supplements. I want to dive deep into supplements and some of the ones that I've been hearing about lately, and we'll talk a little bit more about fruit. So any questions?
Okay, thanks, Shelley. And if you can go ahead and stop sharing your screen, we do have some questions.
Good.
So first question, someone who's really nosy, they want to know what's going to be on your Thanksgiving table.
Oh, this is so sad. This has just not been a good year for anybody, but so I don't eat meat. So my family is going to have the traditional turkey, and we're going to do like a potluck and drive it around to drop off to the elderly in our family. I'm going to make a kick butt soup, like a big veggie soup, and make some homemade bread, like whole wheat, whole grain bread. And just, it's kind of been chilly, so I've been craving a nice big pot of veggie soup, and it'll have all kinds of goodies in there. I haven't decided what it'll be, but it's going to be amazing. So,
all right.
And a glass of resveratrol.
There you go. Just one glass, right?
Probably one nice glass.
Right. Okay, next question. What is the difference between upper and lower neurogenic bowel?
Oh, this is a tough one. This has to do with where your level of injury is. I don't have the answer to that. It is more of a medical question. So I think that would be a really good one for Dr. Shem.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she's going to be talking pretty soon. So I would bring that up with her. I've been told by the physicians I work with, when they do the assessment on our patients with spinal injuries, where the level of injury is, they have told me if they're upper or lower, and usually PT and the physiatrist determines if they're upper or lower motor neuron, and that'll tell. So I find that in the chart, and I go from there with my recommendations.
Okay, very good. Next question. Are there certain vegetables that have more available nutrients when steamed versus cooked?
That's a really good question. Tomatoes are one of them. So cooked tomatoes become more nutritious when you cook them. I believe greens too, certain greens. I don't have the full list, but yeah, and then certain veggies are better raw, eaten that way too. So I want to say most of the green ones become a little healthier, and tomatoes for sure.
Okay. Next question. There are some veggies that I've heard say that you shouldn't peel them off. For example, carrots.
Mm-hmm.
Are there vegetables like that you would recommend not peeling the skin off?
I'm one of those weirdos that washes and scrubs my kiwi and eats it skin and all. So kind of weird, but all the nutrients are in the skin. So if you clean your veggies and your fruits really well, you know, I mean, avocados, obviously, like certain ones you can't, but if you can and it's clean, I scrub my carrots. I have a corn brush and I scrub the heck out of my carrots, and I don't peel them. Unless I want them to look real pretty for some reason or another, then I'll peel them.
All right. This next question, and you may or may not be aware of this, but the person is asking, how do you feel about the recent study that came out that said vegans or vegetarians tend to have a higher rate for bone fractures than more of the meat-eating population? Are you aware of such study?
I actually am aware of it, and I don't know how many participants were in that study, but I think more plant-based people that eat more plants tend to get more calcium. I don't know if vitamin D has anything to do with that, but I do know that so many people are deficient in vitamin D, and vitamin D is necessary to absorb calcium and have strong bones. So I don't know if there's a vitamin D component to that, but eating leafy greens and tons of vegetables, all different colors, there's calcium in all of that too. So I think there's a lot of other variables involved with that kind of research, like what else they are doing in their diet, what they've done for physical activity and weight, like weight bearing activities and that kind of thing. So.
Okay. For, Shelley, bone density is always top of mind with the spinal cord injury population. So to address that, what would you suggest that people be sort of more sort of aware of or inclusive in their diet to aid with that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So again, with all the vegetables, specifically green ones, a ton of green veggies. If you're worried about calcium and you want to eat fish, I mean, like the fatty fish, salmon has a ton of calcium in it. Make sure that you're not deficient in vitamin D, because I'm telling you, when I worked in inpatient, so many people were deficient in vitamin D, and that's directly going to impact bone. So you have to be sure that you get your vitamin D checked. And just eat as much from a plant-based diet as you can. And you can even get your calcium checked too, if you feel like you need to. And there's certain tests that you can do to check bone density, but.
What's the recommended vitamin D intake?
So deficient is under 20 NGs per mil. I would say if you're indoor all day, I would say 1,000 units, but it just really depends on what your level is. There's two different kinds of vitamin D. There's vitamin D2, which is ergocalciferol. That's what we kind of use for more deficient patients. And it's usually what you'll see as a weekly dose of vitamin D supplement. And then there's cholecalciferol. Most multivitamins have cholecalciferol in them, but only about 400 units. So I think it really depends on where you're at with your level. If you're really deficient, then you're going to be on that ergocalciferol for a while until you get your level up.
And you've addressed this before, but you've suggested that some 15 to 20 minutes of being outdoors in the sun.
Yes, but one problem we have in society is we cover up, and we're lucky. We live in, well, most of us here live in Northern California, but winter months are tough. It's cold, but when you go outside, slathering yourself with sunscreen and wearing a hat and like covering your skin, that won't do it. You got to go out in a tank top and like not wear a hat, let the sun hit you so that way you can absorb its rays. 15, 20 minutes should be fine. If you have a super strong history of skin cancer in your family, talk to your doctor about doing that. But yeah, some sun, it's good for the mood too. Honestly, we're all inside right now. If we could just all get outside for 10 minutes every day and just get some fresh air and sun, that would really be good for everyone.
Okay. All right, this next question. Kale is a superfood. What is a good alternative, a comparable alternative to kale?
Any of the greens, Swiss chard is, well, that's one of the purple ones, but any of the greens really, kale and spinach is really good. You could do spinach and arugula, like switch up if you don't like kale, actually, if you don't like kale, then you should give it one more try. Because you didn't probably do it. Maybe Arash, you could do something with kale. I love kale, and I like to take a little bit of like avocado, and I like to give it a nice massage and I put a little sprinkling of salt on there and just massage it, and I can put it into salads that way. It breaks it down a little bit. If you were to eat like a leaf of kale, it's a little bit of it's a little surprise. It's not that good, but if you kind of get in there and soften it up with a little bit of oil and a little bit of salt, and then mix it into your salad, it's really good. And we grow kale in my garden. I just throw it into my soup, and it just disappears in there. It's so good.
Okay. Well, speaking of the devil, we do have Arash with us. Hopefully he can address. Let me see if I can get him to unmute himself. There.
Okay.
Hey, Arash.
Sorry, I'm
Hi,
here.
everyone. This is Arash Bayat-Maku. He's the other half of our dynamic duo that does all the sort of cooking demonstrations. So, Arash, what do you have to say about sort of the use and application of kale for you?
Yeah, thanks. And I'll be brief because my daughter's eating dinner and she might make some noise any moment now. But I love the presentation. Shelley's brought up some really good points. I'll be talking quite a bit about leafy greens and kale. And actually everything Shelley's been talking about tonight has been giving me good guidance. So our next session, I'm happy to cover different ways to integrate kale into your diet. Kale chips is a really good one. Adding kale to pretty much anything. My daughter wants to get involved. So anyway, I'll be happy to discuss more, but leafy greens and kale, many ways to use, and happy to get into it more.
Okay, get back to Yara. Thanks, Arash.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Shelley, back to you. How do you clean fruits? As a question.
Just scrub them. You don't need to put soap on them or anything. They make fancy soaps. They're just a waste, I think. You just a little scrubbing action. Get yourself a nice brush and just give them a good scrub.
Okay. All righty. Next question. I think you kind of answered this. Where can you get your source of vitamin D when you can't go outside?
Supplement. Get yourself a lab test and then get yourself a supplement. If you're within normal limits and your lab's fine, then you could probably just take a multivitamin or something, unless you eat perfectly like nobody does and just all the different colors and mix it all up. You probably could benefit from a multi, but I'll chat about that next time. Okay. And multis usually have 400 units of vitamin D, and if your vitamin D is normal, then that should be fine.
Very good. All right, this next question comes from someone that I know, and I don't know if he's teasing us about it, but he says, she addressed carrots being good for eyes. Does spinach make you build muscles?
Oh, like Popeye? Like
Popeye.
So, if I said yes, would all of you go and eat spinach?
You should say yes to kale.
I think I know that guy. You know what? No, probably not, but I love Popeye anyways.
All right. Well, sorry to disappoint you. What's your thoughts on juicing?
Ooh, that's a good topic. I should talk about this next time too. I don't think about juicing. If you're talking about taking everything and throwing it in a Vitamix and doing it that way, or are you talking about actually putting it into an expensive juicer, which spits out two things, pulp and juice? I don't like that at all. And the reason why is that pulp, unless you plan on using that for cooking or you're going to eat that with a spoon, you're throwing it all away. So I'm not a big fan of juicing, because then you end up with just basically the water and the sugar and maybe some vitamins, but you're missing all the other important stuff when you juice. Now, if you're thinking about throwing everything into a Vitamix, that's fine. I mean, I think our digestive system does better if you're chewing things, because as soon as you put something in your mouth and you start to chew, digestive enzymes pop in, and your body, your brain, everything gets ready. It's like, okay, food is coming. Your activity in your stomach starts to pop and like something's coming down the pipe, But when you throw things into a blender and you drink, it doesn't have the same mechanism, if you know what I mean. You still are, if you're just Vitamixing things, blending things, you're still getting all the nutrients. That's okay. But I don't think you're getting the same benefit as if you were to just eat those foods. So hopefully I answered the question.
Okay. All right. What should be a healthy balance between soluble and insoluble fiber?
So if you're not trying to go one way or the other, just mixing up all your different whole grains, fruits, and veg, just get a different mix. I wouldn't worry about getting too much of one or the other unless you find yourself getting constipated. If you find yourself getting constipated, then Google insoluble fibers and eat more of those maybe. If you find yourself getting diarrhea, like on the looser end, then maybe Google soluble and like eat more oatmeal. That should help. But for most people, I think a big variety would be like the best, because like I was mentioning, everything has both soluble and insoluble, just in different ratios. So just don't overthink it. Don't just mix it all up. It's better that way.
Okay.
Oh, and one other thing I forgot to mention, this is really important. If you are increasing your fiber and you're not really a fiber-centric kind of person and you're starting to eat more fiber, start slowly, but you also want to make sure that you drink enough water, because if you start to eat too much fiber and you're not getting enough water, that will just sit in your gut. It'll sit in your intestines, and it might cause problems. So make sure you're staying hydrated if you're increasing your fiber from where it is right now. Drink water.
Very good. Next question. I have a lot of skin breakdown challenges. What type of sort of vegetable menu should I be focusing on most?
Okay, so first of all, refer back to the protein, okay, because protein is really important when you have skin issues. Make sure you're getting enough protein. And then as far as vitamins, so usually vitamin C is really important for forming new collagen, new skin. So go crazy on the vitamin C, mix that up. And then go with the rainbow, okay, because again, with the nutrients, like the more nutrients you get, the better. But vitamin C is kind of a winner there in terms of skin. So more of those plus the other ones.
But how much vitamin C is enough, or how much is too much? Or basically the body just sort of gets rid of the excessive amount of vitamin C, right? So
yeah, so vitamin C is water soluble, and if you take too much of it, you'll just pee it out. For my worst pressure ulcers, some of the worst ones I've seen, I've done 1,000 milligrams of it a day as a supplement. But those patients were in the hospital, and we were supplementing them because the hospital food wasn't going to be enough to help them heal. And so that was how much I was supplementing with. But if you're at home and you have access to food, then just Google vitamin C fruits and vegetables and have fun with them.
Okay. Next question. How much water is enough per day?
Ooh, this varies. This really varies. So first of all, how is the weather? How tall and how much do you weigh? How active are you? Do you propel a wheelchair, or are you in a power wheelchair? How much fiber are you eating? So it really varies. There really is no rule of thumb. Okay, how's your bowel movement? That's another thing. Like, that's a big one. If you're finding that you're having little results, or if you're constipated a lot, try. The first thing I tell my patients who are constipated, just drink more water. Double your water. If you're not drinking enough, if you're drinking 2 17-ounce bottles of water a day, you're totally not drinking enough water. So, and if you're cathing, it's going to be miserable for a while, probably. If you have a Foley, no problem there, but just be aware that don't drink too much water if you're cathing. Keep an eye on it. You don't want to overextend your bladder, because that can lead to autonomic dysreflexia and all of that. So just be aware of that. But if you can increase your water, definitely do that.
Have you read any studies that point towards some sort of vegetable-based diets as a way of managing the number of urinary tract infections that one might contract?
I have not read any studies related to plant-based eating and urinary tract infections. The main thing that I have read is staying adequately hydrated and cathing properly, using sterile techniques and that kind of thing. But staying hydrated, most people don't drink enough water. And when there's not enough water in your system and flushing through it, you can definitely increase the bacteria in there. And again, with the cranberry supplements, there is not enough research saying that would help prevent urinary tract infections. It has been shown to help the bad bacteria from sticking to the bladder wall. So there is something to be said about cranberry supplements. You can eat cranberries, get the same thing, but staying hydrated is the most important thing, I would say, in terms of UTIs.
Okay, that was the last question. So give us a sneak preview of fruits and supplements that you're going to be doing in December.
I am going to walk through the colors of the rainbow again, probably share some super fruits and why they're so important. And I definitely want to touch on the fact that a lot of people are terrified of fruit because fruit is a carbohydrate, but I want to talk about why it's a healthy carbohydrate, what makes it healthy. I haven't fully figured out what supplements I'm going to cover, but I'm going to go probably over fiber supplements. And then I want to go through all of the other supplements that we've been hearing about lately. And I have to put that together still. If you have ideas, though, I encourage people to let Franklin know. Same with the diabetes. I want to touch on some GI stuff in the future. But if you have some questions about supplements, is that okay, Franklin, if they
Absolutely.
send you? Yeah, I mean, any particular supplements you want me to talk about? Because with supplements, I do dive into the research. I want to know what science says about these supplements. I'm a big fan of food over supplementation, but in some cases, supplements are beneficial. So I'm going to try to put that together, and hopefully that will be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And really, everyone, what Shelley really prides herself, and I'm thrilled to be, partnering with her, is everything that she talks about. There is research and study behind it, and if there isn't, she'll let you know that there is some or some inconclusive or just or conclusive research behind everything that she says. So I know it's easy. We read on Facebook, we hear from friends. Oh, I do this for UTI. I do this for whatever, for skin breakdowns. But if you don't like to hear what Shelley has to say, I'm sorry, but she's not going to sort of BS you with anecdotal sort of stuff. That's not the kind of person that she is. So thanks, Shelley, for doing what you do and for putting the time that you put in to do all the research behind every presentation. So everyone, as I mentioned, we have been recording this presentation, so you'll all have it in your inbox come Friday morning. So thanks for being part of this presentation. And Shelley, thanks once again for really giving up a lot of your time to make these things happen for our spinal cord injury community. So have a good night, everyone. Have a great Thanksgiving. And I look forward to seeing many of you next month when Shelley talks about fruits and supplements. Okay.
Stay safe, everybody.
That's all right.
Take
care. Bye-bye.
Bye.